Hi friends, thanks for joining me today. More exciting news, we made 12,000 views, so I hope that you'll consider liking my page, sharing it with friends. Today I want to talk about this idea of using discernment to judge people and their character, and whether or not you should be involved in their life. There is a saying that I am often saying to friends, and that is that if the devil can't get you trapped with enticing you to do evil, then he'll trap you in doing something that you believe is good. And that is no more true for me than it is for many of you out there who thought you were helping a hurt, wounded person who needed support, compassion. I come from a world where second chances are important. Believing that people can change, that they can start anew, that they can be transformed is a deep part of my belief system. And as a result of that, it's also been used, unfortunately, against me. And I see it happening a lot within the Christian church for Christian women specifically. And that's actually what I want to talk to you about today is I wish we protected the women of our churches better. And I also wish that we trained them instead of be nice, be sweet, be merciful, be compassionate, don't hurt so and so's feelings, that we would teach discernment, which is a spiritual practice. Jesus saw people for who they were. At times he gave them compassion, and at times he called them out for what they were and who they were. It is quite common in the Christian church that you'll hear that exciting redemption story of an individual coming out of prison who turned their life around in jail and now they're ready to start again. And good news, friends, they're ready to start again with you, the beautiful, sweet, kind, and compassionate female who can nurture and support them in this process of transformation. You might hear a little bit of sarcasm in my tone, and it was intended because the problem is with this sort of perspective, this thought process, is that we don't require people to show years of consistent behavioral change. We think that a couple of weeks says enough. And too many women that I know have been caught in abusive relationships with men that have records. They've been in jail. They were delinquent. They were in, as a youth in detention centers, etc. And I know this is going to get some ire. I know people can start again, but I'm talking about abuse and how women can get trapped into that abuse. And we have to be honest with ourselves. If you ran a background check on that guy that you're dating who is now violent, cruel, verbally, emotionally, controlling, possessive, very, very, very frequently what you'll find is that there is a record. That person has a criminal background and they have a pattern and they have enticed you with the hope and optimism that your love is enough to help and change that person. Lately, I've been reading Galatians, and one of the things that I find pretty interesting, Paul, who was murdering Christians or hunting them down and having them thrown in prison, he has this interaction with Jesus. He's struck blind. He sort of sees a light and hears a noise, and he's like, "Who is that? Who are you, God?" And he hears, "I'm Jesus, whom you're persecuting." He's blinded, transformed, repents. A Christian is sent, I believe it was Philip, is sent, and he accepts Jesus. And then he goes, Galatians says, to Arabia for a while to sort of process this experience in his life, probably to pray and think about what has happened. And then, for 3 years, he shares his faith to the Gentile, which is a non-Jew. And he shares with them about who Jesus is and starts evangelizing. 3 years later, he is presented to Peter and James, the brother of Jesus. And they welcome him, and he says, here's what I'm preaching. This is what I'm teaching. And they say, this is great. Like, this is wonderful. You're on the right track. Good job. We move on into, I believe it's the beginning of chapter 2, and we find that 10 years later, he now is presented to all of the disciples and the church in Jerusalem, and he begins to have a sort of influence within the Jewish church. And largely, he continues to be in charge of the church of the Gentiles. I want you to think about that. 3 years before he demands anything, and he doesn't even demand it, but he sort of says, hey, I'd love to meet with you guys. And they say, yeah, we're excited. We've heard that this guy who used to persecute the church is now building the church. And this is good news, and we're rejoicing. But then 10 years go by, and then he meets the people in the church. I have to say that this is like in the Bible. We have to see consistent, long-term behaviors that show a change of character. So someone who suddenly got saved and they've accepted Jesus and been baptized, but they aren't necessarily showing character of being selfless, setting aside addictions, not stealing anymore, abandoning drugs, alcohol, sexual immorality, all the things, again, in Galatians it says you shouldn't be doing these things. We say, well, it takes time for this person to change. You're right. It does. It does take time. It takes time to see if that person is looking for a community to use, or if they're looking to be in a community and be changed. And discipled. And discipled means to be taught the ways of Christianity and to move into those. Would like to read from this great book, It's Not You, Identifying and Healing from Narcissistic People by Ramani Deversala. This is such a good book. It's not a Christian book. I'm not saying it is. However, it's so on point, and it really speaks to this problem of putting off doing something with the things that we're seeing, observing, and experiencing. And so I just want to read, this is in the paper book, it's page 147, Learning to Discern. Mindfulness is an essential foundation to the next steps, which is discernment. Discernment has two elements: how you assess new people and how you manage yourself with the existing people in your life. Being discerning with new people means watching their behaviors unfold and learning how they respond to stress, receive feedback, and respect your time, then acknowledging that data instead of justifying unhealthy and unacceptable behaviors. Use an old hack I learned in graduate school. The first time something happens, it's a blip. The second time is a coincidence. The third time, it's a pattern. That rule of 3 can allow you to give someone a chance and then give yourself permission to recognize and step back when something is revealed to be a problematic behavior. With existing folks in your life, it's never too late to take an analytical eye to their behavior. It can be difficult to think of discernment as it applies to people. So think of it as it applies to food. You wouldn't eat spoiled or unpleasant food. To be discerning is to be willing to step back from people who are not good for you. Discernment serves another key function. It can keep you from getting stuck once enough red flags and uncomfortable patterns have piled up. Oh my gosh, I could read so much more. Highly recommend this book. You can get it at your library. On audio, you can read it, you can highlight it. I like the paper. just want to encourage you, friends, that one of the reasons why you may have found yourself in a situation where you were being abused, treated badly, is that you have denied the inner voice that is telling you this behavior is not okay. This person has behaved in this certain way and it is bad. The other day I was listening to an Instagram as well and super resonated with this, and they were speaking about empaths, and that an empath looks at a person with problematic behaviors, and rather than saying this is not okay, I want to remove myself from being around this person who's being unkind, hurtful, etc., they think, I wonder why they did that. Do you think it would have something to do with their childhood? Maybe their trauma. Maybe it comes from, you name it. It could be anything, right? I can tell you that when I was forgiving continuously DV and outbursts of anger, manipulation, cruel things being said, I kept saying, I get it. This person has trauma. They need patience and compassion. And they, of course, told me as much. I need patience and compassion. Just be patient with me, and I'm so sorry. But of course, nothing ever changed. And they even used my faith as a weapon. That it was I who could love them out of their dark place. That me believing we were supposed to be together meant that I had to keep pushing forward. I remember one time in particular, he said, well, you told me that you believe God wanted us to be together. So, which is it? Do you think this is God or not, Amanda? Yes, my own faith. And I remember saying to him at one point, this absolutely can't be God, because God wouldn't treat me this way, and God wouldn't want me to be treated this way. I'll figure it out. I don't know what I misunderstood. I don't know how this started and how this happened, but there's no way that this is God, because God doesn't abuse. So, Christian ladies out there, if you're in that garden and a snake comes up to you and starts chatting away with you about what God did or didn't say, end the conversation, walk away. You have the right to end a conversation and walk away. It is not your job to save them. Let them get counseling from a mentor. Let them go to the men's Bible study. Let them seek out the support and help of men. And for you men out there who have been snagged by abusive and deceptive women, let them reach out to women to get support and help. It's not your job to save her, and it's not your job to change her. And if she says that you're the only one that can, question it. You might be in trouble. You have the right to discern. I always tell people, hey, I want this person to get help and support. I want them to continue in the process, but I am not their resource. I am not the one that's going to help them. They're going to have to find someone else. It's always the one that they think they can manipulate, control, use, bleed dry, that they think is the one that should be helping them, of course. They don't usually want the stern, firm, strong person who tells them what is really going on and how they need to behave. So friends, turn on your discernment, use it. It's God-given. Use the intuition. It's God's way of protecting you and looking out for you. Check out this book. I highly recommend it.